Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Culture Nerd Podcast. This week is our wonderful 20th episode of doing this since we've officially launched. So that's pretty fun. But we're going to talk about something in the coming days. Black Adam's coming out, but yesterday, Hollywood Reporter dropped kind of a megaton bomb on everybody not realizing what was happening behind the scenes. And we kind of want to talk about how Dwayne Johnson and Michael DeLuca kind of seized power away from Hamada before Hamada leaves officially this week. So let's go right into what happened, what was announced, what was revealed, what's happening behind the scenes, and let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Taylor.
Sorry, everyone. My voice is a little hoarse today. I was doing.
Taylor did homework yesterday and got a little too angry.
I got very angry. I was I'm doing a coding class from Coding Python, and I was supposed to code a turtle program, and this stupid program. It was like I was like 70 lines of code into it, and I kept saying that there was a syntax error, and I'm like, "There's no error. What's wrong with you?" And I was like swearing at my computer, and then I looked up like 3 lines from the bottom, and I'm like, "Yeah, I was missing one parentheses." I was like, I looked at it. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I hate this." And I felt so mad at myself for getting mad at my computer that I was like, "Oh my goodness, why?"
Listen, you have an unhealthy relationship with technology. You have always treated your robot slaves as such, and that's something you have to work on another day.
That is something I have to work on because I was getting mad at this thing, and I was like, and then like it was one of those moments where you get so mad and frustrated with something that you start to question your own intelligence. You're like, am I just doing this wrong? Do I not understand how this program is supposed to work? And I was Googling like how to do this, and I'm like, I'm doing this. What, am I an idiot? And I was like, I was questioning my own sanity.
Did you Google that? Am I going crazy? Am I an idiot? Did Google tell you those answers?
And I was like, I'm going crazy because I'm doing the same thing again and again, expecting something different. And I'm like, this is the definition of insanity. I'm losing my mind right now in real time. And I was getting so mad. And then I was just like, you know what? Okay, let me look at it again. And I went back like 3 lines up from the bottom. And I'm like, oh my goodness, such an idiot. And I was so mad at myself. And I was like, boop, and I put it in and I hit enter. And I was like, it's working now. Okay, I can turn this assignment in.
You made the video game. Congratulations. You did it. Listen.
I did actually. It was essentially
the code work was
important. Essentially the code I was running. I was running a turtle program, and I was making asteroids. Like that's what I was doing. And I was just trying to run this code to make asteroids for myself. And I was like, why can't you find it? Why can't you find it?
It's crazy that all those programs all just become basic Atari games. Right, like as you get more decoding, eventually you're going to get to Pac-Man and be like, this is a very advanced thing. Look at all these things that are going on this screen.
Oh yeah. And that's insane to me. Like I was doing this. I'm like, oh, now I see how my friends were doing this in high school when we were watching, I think it was Chad program in his T80 calculator, all those games that he made. I'm like, this is how he was doing it back when we were 17.
I never programmed those games, but I did download those games, and I had Tetris and Mario and a spaceship game on my calculator, and they got me through many a math classes.
I remember those days.
I did end up failing that math class and had to take that math class over summer. So hindsight being 2020, maybe I should have just paid attention, but I did enjoy those games.
Yeah. I mean, we were all kind of dumb in high school. We all did stupid things.
Speaking of playing games, Taylor, what's going on with Warner Brothers? Because it sure looks like some games are happening over there.
Yep.
I don't want to toot our own horn, but I just want to say I feel like we have followed some very logical clues, and we were prepared for this. I don't feel like any of this was shocking.
No, not at all. Black Adam comes out in a couple of days. Some people are seeing it today in other countries. Some people are seeing it later this week. The review embargo came out about 3 hours ago. And unsurprisingly, the Marvel media shit all over this film. Like, unsurprisingly.
I've never heard that. The Marvel media, they only love Marvel movies?
Yeah. I think IGN, they gave She-Hulk an 8 out of 10, and they gave Black Adam a 5.
Okay, that's a little harsh. And even She-Hulk is fun, but like I did not
An
like
8 out
that
of 10 film?
ending. Yeah, I hear you.
The She-Hulk ending, I think we have to dedicate a whole episode to unpacking the decision. It reminded to me of like Ghostbusters 2016, where they felt like the smart choice plot-wise was to shit on the fans.
I have now been talked into it by a friend of mine that it is better than I think. But as I was watching, because as the episode is critiquing, this isn't what you want to be happening. This is also what I don't want to be happening. So I don't know. Yeah, we can save She-Hulk for another day.
Yeah, because we have thought. I mean, I would give the show as a whole maybe a 7 out of 10 ish.
Totally agree. It's definitely. There's no way it's an 8.
No, it's not. It's not a B show for me, because of some obvious misfires throughout the entirety of the season. But either way, like I said, some people are they praise the crap out of that show, and then they just dumped all over this one, which is kind of what I was expecting. But
do you think this is critics, or do you think this is the general audience? Because I think a general audience is going to see this movie and really like it.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay.
So yesterday, The Hollywood Reporter dropped this article, middle of the day, kind of about this time yesterday. They dropped DC at a turning point. James Gunn pitches secret movie. Dwayne Johnson flexes his Superman power. Exclusive by Boris Kitt, right? And in this big article, they drop a lot of stuff. Honestly, they basically, I don't think it should be. Should I even bother? I mean, spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think it's okay it's okay. I mean, we're maybe talking about some stuff people aren't up to date with, and if you haven't seen those movies, I don't know. You're gonna have to skip ahead like 20 minutes though, so I don't know how long we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go in Black Adam 100% fresh, probably just tune out today and then come back to this after you see it.
Go watch Black Adam and come back.
Because the introduction paragraph to this article kind of spoils the post-credit scene.
Super gross that that's allowed to happen even before the movie comes out.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of Twitter peoples, a lot of people who saw the movie in advance who just said, I don't care, and just dumped spoilers on the internet, which was kind of douchey, but whatever. They basically start off saying, yeah, there's no prominent leader of DC right now. Dan Lin didn't work out, etc. Walter Hamada they said right here, DC film head Walter Hamada is quietly ending his tenure in the coming days. Word is that he's cleaning his office and probably will be out in the next 2 days, to be honest. He's going to be gone by Friday, but he's probably going to be out of there today or tomorrow, to be honest. They talked about how there's right now no permanent leader to guide anything. However, they do kind of say a few things in here that are pretty kind of cool. Johnson publicly touted his vision for a future of Black Adam versus Superman after the reveal came that Superman was in the movie, and they straight up started talking about it because it leaked online. They did. Yes, Hunter Iggy, I did see your question. I'll get to that in a minute because we're going to go through this, and that's part of the other stuff. They talk about how he wants to make a Black Adam versus Superman movie and wants to make a Black Adam versus Shazam family movie. He wants to do all this stuff. Fans are ready to go with Henry Cavill returning. They talked about Matt Reeves and his expanding his Batman universe, and they kind of even touch base a little bit on what J.J. Abrams is doing. They start off saying exclusively reporting that James Gunn is going to be working on another project or two for his Suicide Squad corner. So we are kind of already know that Peacemaker season 2 is kind of in limbo, but more or less gonna happen. The Suicide Squad sequel was supposed to be already kind of a done deal, but I think the studio is kind of waiting to see where it's going, plot wise and completion wise, if it's gonna work. They reveal that James Gunn and producer Peter Safran are working on a new movie, possibly more that James Gunn would be tackling. coming kind of right off the heels of the whole Deathstroke returning. I'm kind of leaning toward maybe Deathstroke's going to be involved whenever this mystery project is. However, they do kind of go into it that the person that really kind of saved the day here for the future of the DCEU was Dwayne Johnson and Michael DeLuca. And they kind of go into this repeatedly that, long story short, for the past 6 or so years, where they were trying to get this Black Adam movie off the ground, Dwayne was trying to secure a cameo from Henry Cavill's Superman in this movie. And every time he brought it up, they were like, nope, can't do it. Nope, can't do it. They kept shutting him down, saying, even got to the point where Dwayne and his $7 production were trying to buy the rights to Superman so they could put him in the movie. They were willing to pay for it to make it happen. And they kept getting shut down. And most recently, over this last few months, when Black Adam was finished and the test screening started, they had a headless cameo, and Dwayne didn't like it. He wanted to move forward with a full-on Henry Cavill cameo. Again, went to Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada again said no. Post-merger, then, merger comes in. Warner Brothers Pictures head gets established, Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi. They both get the top spots, the spots that were previously held by Toby Emmerich and company. They get the new spots. And so what does Dwayne do? He says, I'm tired of your crap. I'm going to go to your boss. And he went around Hamada, went to Michael DeLuca, pitched everything he wanted.
Pitched and then multiple movies that The Rock wants to tie himself to this studio for 3 or 4 films. And we're going to get Henry Cavill. And like a good wrestling match, we're going to build up to the best, biggest heel battle we've ever seen.
Yeah. And they basically got all this stuff going. And ironically, and this is kind of what kind of flamed my tweet earlier today, because a lot of people are like, why would you say that blah, 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 that none of this was in place? Because long story short, Hamada was fully prepared and fully committed to just recasting Superman. He didn't want to bring Henry Cavill in. He had massive stuff going on. Look, even right here, it says verbatim, Hamada had his own Superman plans. One of them being to introduce a black Superman with a multi-decade spanning story. After Hamada said no, Johnson went around the executive, turning to DeLuca and Abdi, who gave him the thumbs up, and a furious round of negotiations occurred right before Labor Day, a deadline that was insisted on by Warner Brothers, with the scene shot in mid-September. So literally everyone who was saying that the deal was done, Superman was back, the project is greenlit, everything's go, high fives around, everyone who was saying that before Labor Day was clearly just really good at guessing, because it was not set in stone. It wasn't real. It wasn't locked in. None of it had happened until after Labor Day, where the contracts were signed. Henry was back in the room, and they were able to shoot a scene about 2 weeks later. That is crazy to me, because that literally means that this time last month, Henry Cavill was wearing the suit and filming the scene coming out in a movie this Friday.
So much of what you have just laid out sounds like everybody's coming back. And even if, dare I say his name, Zack Snyder isn't there, all the other puzzle pieces are now coming back into place. And funny enough, Ben Affleck Batman would probably fit pretty okay in James Gunn's Suicide Squad world.
Yeah. I mean, as much as people don't like a lot of stuff about James Gunn and it's kind of frustrating, because you see a lot of people on Twitter, just Twitter in general is a fun place to be around, because it's super healthy to be on Twitter every day. Twitter kind of hates James Gunn.
I just checked Twitter. It also hates us, and we've done nothing with our lives. Yeah, you can't be on Twitter all day. It'll kill you.
Yeah. Twitter, a lot of the Snyder fans, there's a kind of a niche corner of the Snyder fans, the kind of extremist ones, that hate James Gunn. They hate anything that doesn't have Snyder attached to it, etc. And kind of like what Ryan's bringing up here, don't count the chickens before they hatch. We have to wait for the Flash. Yes, 100%, because that's part of it. So along with everything going on, Michael DeLuca is now the running guy of Warner Brothers Pictures, And DeLuca, for people who don't know, DeLuca was kind of a huge person involved in Zach's previous project. So DeLuca probably has fond feelings for Zach and was kind of, it's not a surprise that he would be, yeah, let's bring back Zach's cast. Let's do this. High five. That doesn't make a big deal to me. But as they kind of go into this big article, they talk about how Hamada was kind of stonewalling everything, right? Because they filmed The Flash, and The Flash was supposed to be ending everything. They were going to be removing Ben Affleck. They're going to be moving Henry Cavill. They were going to be creating a new timeline. And then that movie was going to lead into a crisis movie, which was going to reboot everything even more and just start everything fresh. And they were doing all of this because he just didn't want to deal with it. Didn't want to go with all the headaches. And for whatever reason, whatever his logic was, Henry Cavill was an issue for him.
Do we call conspiracy theory? Is there some beef that we are unaware of where Henry Cavill spit on his car or something, like something happened in a parking lot somewhere? Because it's crazy that The Rock has been doing this for 6 years. He's been being shot down about this.
Yeah. And mind you, The Rock had started working on this movie 15 years ago. That's insane to me.
Of being like, I want to be Black Adam. I want to be in this universe. Here's my ideas for this character. Let's make this happen.
But I kind of want to bring TJ in because TJ is one of our editors. Hi, TJ.
Hey.
Are you ready for me to bring you in? Did I just throw you under the bus?
No. You get literally hand in the cookie jar, right?
Show us the cookies. Are they the log cookies? Are they the log?
Yeah. No, those are the.
That's a great cookie.
My snack today is I got a bottle of water and hot Cheetos.
And turn water right into wine. I'm having myself a day.
I know. I saw your car accident and stuff. That a girl with a big truck rolled over the front of your car.
Freaking monster truck, dude! Just rolled right over the front left of my car.
Michael and I have been talking about this since we were younger. That I do not believe that if a girl weighs less than $1.20, she should be driving a lifted truck.
Yeah, she was under $1.20.
I'm
pretty sure.
This is the first time finding out about your terrible of your woes. I'm very sorry. That being said, I'm glad that you are healthy and sitting here and eating cookies and drinking wine and sharing your insights with us.
Mind you, I mean, he's in Hawaii right now, and he's time difference with us. This is probably like what, noon for you? You're drinking wine and eating cookies at noon?
No, it's not noon.
2:50.
Okay, well, you're 3 hours behind. I thought you were like 5 hours at one point. I think during daylight savings time, it was like a 5 hour gap.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah, no, my bosses said, you can, do what you got to do. I'm like, all right, I will do what I have to do. So
I will go home and I will drink wine and
I'm
going to
go home.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. But yeah, the whole time it's always like, man, if I just took 5 seconds, longer doing something else, wouldn't be there. And then you guys were talking about The Flash, and I was just like, oh yeah, that would have been cool if I could have just stopped time for just a real quick second,
You're just like Gwyneth Paltrow in Sliding Doors. You didn't know if you make the trade, what's going to happen? And today you didn't make the trade.
Yeah, I didn't make the trade.
So while we were talking about TJ's woes of car troubles today, Ryan dropped a pretty significant comment for me. And this is something that Ryan and I talk about quite frequently. I talk to Ryan a lot. And for people who think that there's any beef between me and Ryan, there's no beef. There never has been beef. Ryan and I, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and I will tell him to his face, and that's fine. And he says it to my face, that's fine. The only reason for all you tinfoil hat people that think Ryan secretly hates me, the only reason he doesn't follow me on social media is because he unfollowed every scooper or account that posts leaks unilaterally. If you were a scooper or you posted leaks or you posted anything like that, you weren't being followed by Ryan because he didn't want to get any negative backlash from anybody for that. So we're friends on Facebook. He's got my personal phone number. We're good. So y'all need to stop with your nonsense. But no, he says right here, whatever the issue was between Hamada and Cavill, it was deep. And he talks about it. I mentioned to Taylor for a long while that these pitches were going on behind closed doors. And at some stages, $7 was pretty much laughed out of the room. Because it's true. Because for whatever reason, Hamada and those group of everyone in that little tight-knit producing chunk that was controlling DC. They just didn't want to do it. And yes, Ryan, I know you're probably still watching. Just like every day, you're mowing the lawn at this exact time, which is the best. Still waiting on Ryan to talk Power Rangers on here. Holding out for that. I am too, Ryan. Man. We're gonna do a Power Ranger show. 100%. One of these days, we'll do a Power Rangers show, and we will get you here.
Oh man.
One of these days, when he's not adulting and he's ready to hang out for like 20 minutes and talk Power Rangers. But yeah, I mean, he lives in Australia, so what time is it for him? Let's look at the mighty Google machine.
I think it's similar to my time.
TJ, you've been drinking,
but
so
a day ahead.
TJ, you've been drinking now.
It's noon for him.
Yeah.
It's noon for him, but it's also noon tomorrow. He's in the future.
That's another concept.
Yeah, you're 3 hours in the past, and he's like 12 hours. He's like 24 hours in the future or something. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
So along with this big article, they dropped out all the stuff basically that Hamada was kind of self-sabotaging DC because he was focused on these really close-knit projects and wanted to do things a certain way, and just nothing was working. They also talk about, meanwhile, in Gotham City, filmmaker Reeves is quietly making his own expansion plans. They talked about how officially the Batman 2 is finally going into production. So, I mean, the last update we got was that they wanted to, that they were waiting until something was written that they wanted to get into it. Now that they're actually logging in. They also talked about but Reeves is planning more. He's apparently met with writers and directors to build out more movies and TV series based on Batman's Rogue Gallery, which kind of sounds a lot like DC's Black Label stuff that they were going to try to do a while back. Some of the names they threw out there were Scarecrow, Clayface, and Professor Pig, all getting solo projects. Tying itself into Matt Reeves' universe, more than likely, or tying itself into whatever they want, kind of like the Joker. But it reminded me of an article that came about from earlier this year, because a lot of people were like, oh, the Batman won't work because it was super grounded. And he actually, Reeves actually addressed this flat out about fantastical villains. When he was talking to fandom's Eric Goldman earlier this year, he said, in my view, I just feel drawn to finding grounded versions of everything. To me, it would even be a challenge and an interesting way to figure out how that could happen. Even the idea of something like Mr. Freeze, that's such a great story, right? I think there's actually a grounded version of that story that could be really powerful and could be really great. I love the fantastical side of Batman, but this iteration, obviously, to me, being very comic faithful, but I don't think this one necessarily doesn't need to lean into fantastical. So he kind of says that he wants to kind of go more grounded, but he doesn't discount that the fantastical characters can't work in a grounded setting. You can make something seem fantastical, but not like the Chris Nolan way of doing it, where it's so grounded and real that there's no room for anything else. So
interesting to see how they would do Clayface, because
exactly, and that's kind of what I'm looking at too.
Liquid Terminator, right? Like,
it doesn't.
It's all going to be sick. It's going to be a bunch of sick people. All of these villains are going to be dying. Whatever Clayface is, like, they'll probably remove the like X-Men parts of his powers, right? Like grow it, like all the fun, but like him changing his face is absolutely what you want. You know what I mean? You want a murder to happen, and they're like, I saw it. It was Bruce Wayne who did it. And it's like, there's no way it was me. I was out fighting crime. And then he moves his nose around and like all that stuff.
Oh, man.
I mean, he says that he would love to do it. He wants to unwind that fantastical and see how would this make sense here. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to make it make sense. And
who's Professor Pig?
Professor Pig is he's a fun one. Professor Pig is a gentleman who wears a pig mask, has a butcher thing, and in some iterations he literally cuts people apart and sews them together in Frankenstein's people. Like he's just a serial killer that wears a pig mask.
Yeah, the last movie was Seven. Just redo it again and put that guy in it. Okay, that sounds
pretty much
great.
Yeah. I was reading some when I posted the comment the picture yesterday on the Instagram about that exact thing. Someone literally had pointed out that next to Professor Pig, the Riddler is going to just look like a clown. Like he's going to be like absolutely nothing compared to what this guy is on a comic level. He was in the Arkham games. I think in Arkham Knight, actually. I was reading a comment. He might have been in the Arkham games. He was in Arkham Knight as a kind of a hidden side character. Like if you just went down this side story path, you would find him.
I think that was the one where the victims were hanging, I think.
Yeah. And he had like, it was like this weird mannequin level where like he had the people that he's sewn up next to mannequins.
Right.
So you couldn't tell which were people and which were the mannequins. And then they started attacking you. That was fun. Not a great level to play at 3 a.m. when you're on no sleep. That was fun.
Oh, no.
But no, they kind of talked about it. They across the board, like they even said right here, grounded solutions may also extend to members of the Bat family as well. Robert Pattinson replied about Robin. Like they even talked about a quote from Robert Pattinson about what they want to do with Robin. He has to be about 13. That's the only way I'll accept it. I honestly love Death in the Family stuff. I think it'd be so cool, and some people are scared of it, but I think it's kind of exciting. I think it would be a really fun addition. So at least Pattinson is not against the idea of having a Robin.
This is all set up for Robin. All of this is a setup for Robin. I think Robin was what was pitched because this Batman is pretty dark and doesn't necessarily have a ton to live for, and giving him that stakes would be a huge benefit to that character because he would then get to redo. I feel like Batman redoes his training with Robin, right? Because he's like, you don't want to be like me, but these are the skills you need to survive.
Yeah.
Right. And so like we have a lot of stuff going on. And to answer the question that keeps coming up with the thing, yes, Iggy, I will answer it right now. At the premiere at Times Square, Hollywood Reporter had asked Aldous Hodge, the guy who plays Hawkman, what he wants to see next, what he wants to see brought into the fold after Black Adam. What's he want to do? Because what characters do he want to see introduced in the films? And he said flat out, I want Mr. Terrific. His backstory is amazing. And I also want Hawk Girl. Hawk Girl being his his partner in crime. And Mr. Terrific is kind of one of those unsung awesome characters of DC that the reason why no one ever does anything with him is because it's really hard to make a character that's kind of that OP.
I am unfamiliar with him. I will admit that.
So essentially, I mean, if you want to ignore the terrible iteration they did of him on the Arrowverse show, because it wasn't that great, Mr. Terrific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now you're starting to remember. Mr. Terrific is a character who was actually introduced back in like our childhood, back in '97. I think we were all like 10 at the time when this character first made his way. He's a member of the JSA more often than he's part of the Justice League, but his power set is he's just like insanely intelligent. They kind of consider him as the third smartest man on Earth. He's got crazy technology that uses his little T-spheres fly around him at all times. I think there was one quote that he said, they're like, what's your superpower? He said, I've only got one. I'm invisible to technology. And in today's society where technology is running everything, being able to make a claim that I'm invisible to all technology is kind of cool. It's like cyborg level intelligent, which is pretty rad. And he's just a dude.
He's just a dude.
He's just a dude. For a movie universe,
Terrific.
Do you think they give him an Iron Man suit? You think they give him something that looks bulkier on screen?
I hope not. I kind of liked the idea of him, like his mask essentially just being a T that goes across his face. I think that was always fine. And the fair play jacket, which always makes zero sense to me, but he's essentially this super intelligent guy who uses kind of handheld tech, and he can just get into any. He's basically like, think Batman's Oracle, but like her upgrade. Like this is the guy that does it all. I think he would be a great support character, but I don't see him being the guy you bring into a fist fight. That's why I always had issues with him on Arrow, because he essentially should have replaced the girl in the chair that kind of the whole show turned about, and instead they made him a street level fighter. But it made zero sense because he was more of he should have been the guy manning the watchtower and running everything behind the scenes. Like, I need a door open. I open the next 25 for you, dude. Like that. He's that kind of guy. And then, I mean, obviously, Hot Girl would be a fantastic adjustment. I mean, because if you introduce Hot Girl into this world now, you can definitely get into the mystical side of Hawkman. I mean, we have the Hawkman we have in the movie, which is the Thanagarian Hawkman. Rad. But let's get Hot Girl to show up and him being like, "Oh my God, it's Shayera," and she's like, "Yes, I'm alive again. You abandoned me back in Egypt," and like have that whole like, plot line of the rebirth cycle being just brought front and center. That'd be so much fun to do. I would love that. And the comment that you brought up about who he would cast, Wesley Snipes for Mr. Terrific, which I could see, but I kind of also picture someone a little bit younger because I don't want them to do another Dr. Fate where you have just an old veteran actor playing a JSA member.
And also, Wesley Snipes has to come back and play Blade when what's his name drops out, so we can't commit him to the DC.
And then Jessica Chastain is Hot Girl, and I'm not sure I'm feeling that one as much. I want someone kind of more the age range of Hodge and Chastain. Maybe she could play a flashback version, but I would say someone more like the oh my goodness, I just blanked her name. She's the girl in Andor.
Sure.
The one who played, was it Bit? The girl?
The sister?
No, the girlfriend.
Oh, sure.
What was her name?
Sure.
No, she played that character. I think Bix. Adria. She was also in that remake of the. She was in Morbius. She was in the second Pacific Rim. She was in Good Omens. I remember that. She was really fun in that show.
Oh yeah.
I've seen many of those things that you just told me. I don't remember her in any of them. So obviously, this was her big breakout thing in Andor.
No, I mean she was the main girl in Andor, and not the main girl in Andor. She was the main girl in Morbius.
Okay, I have not seen Morbius yet.
Main girl. It's all right. I mean,
me neither.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say it's like Eliza Gonzalez, but it's not. There are different people. It's like it's like when people think that the guy who played that in Upgrade and Prometheus, they're like, "Oh, you mean Tom Hardy?" I'm like, "That's not Tom Hardy. That's the other guy."
That's not Tom Hardy.
Like it's that kind of a situation where you got another
like Josh Duhamel and Tad Hamilton.
Yeah, those two guys that
Timothy Oliphant and
Timothy Oliphant.
Those two guys. Yeah.
Yeah, every time I see them, I mix them up. I'm like,
oh man.
I was like, when was that guy in Transformers? I was like, oh, the guy from Transformers. He was in Boba Fett. Like, no.
Oh, the guy from The Perfect Getaway. No, the other one.
Not the other guy. Mixed him up again. But no, I could see her being modern day Hot Girl. I think that'd be a really fun role for her because she always gets played as like this. She doesn't get a lot of big roles, and I think she's fantastic. Whenever she's in a role, she does a very good job, and I think that she needs her break. So that'd be fun to have her as a superhero.
Be pretty awesome. Just bring Hot Girl in would be just awesome because you think about like cartoon Justice League eventually, if that's what they're going towards, is what.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, right? Like, I mean, she's there. I mean, they're all there. Got to get them all.
And so they kind of talked about more in this article, just kind of get back us on track. They say it's unclear where the Superman move leaves Abrams, who is still on track to produce the Black Superman story. Like they're still saying it's kind of still real, but now they would say it's probably going to exist completely outside of everything, just kind of like how Todd Phillips's Joker is. Like it's not into any canon but its own, which I'm fine with. But they did kind of again bring up the fact that Constantine, Zatanna, and the rest of the Justice League Dark projects are dead at Warner Brothers, and they're letting them be shopped around. But that's kind of it. The big one is a lot of people are like, oh, it must be a typo because only Constantine and Madame Xanadu were canceled. But the fact that they brought up Zatanna, they probably could have phrased it a little bit better. But Zatanna was also part of that big calling that happened. Because Zatanna was tied to that project. When you close that project, you close Zatanna too. That's how it works.
I want Zatanna to be introduced in a movie. She needs a budget because if they go cheap with it, it's gonna be cheap.
It's gonna feel cheap.
It's gonna
cheap. It's gonna look cheap. It's just gonna be cheap. That's
One of my favorite things that they did in the DC cartoons was, do you remember back when we were all kids, when the Batman animated series was on TV, and they introduced Zatanna as a escape artist with her dad, and Batman had learned how to do the art of escapism from them, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Bruce, magic is real. What's up?" And like she was just so cavalier about it, but they showcased Zatanna and her dad like as the physical side of the skills set that they had outside of the magic. And I loved that introduction because they did that just, by the way, boom, there it is. And just left it like nonchalantly. And then the next time you see Zatanna in the Justice League stuff, she's like magic and like sparkles and everything is going backwards because she does her spells by speaking backwards. So it'd be a lot of fun.
It'd be awesome. Yeah.
But the article kind of does bring up I kind of wrap it up. They brought up all of this takes place as Hamada, who did not attend the Black Adam premiere in New York on October 12th, just a few days ago, packs up the final personal effects from his Burbank office ahead of his last day of sometime this week. The executive is not even taking a production deal with the studio, a traditional move among executives who are being let go but given a soft landing as a courteous thank you for service. They're not even giving him the legacy credits. He's out. That's it.
That's pretty telling, right? That's
kind of brutal. Right. But also kind of telling of how Discovery sees his tenure as DC head. You had, what was his movies that came out when he was there? I mean, he had almost zero to no successes. And his biggest glaring omission was passing on the Joker. Like, that's insane to me.
I mean, I feel like we've talked over and over about all of these movies and the treacherous path that they have. He was the gatekeeper. All of these things and the hurdles they had to go through was because he set them. So I get it, but I don't feel like anyone wants to work with him. I mean, maybe he'll go produce something somewhere else, but I don't know what if this DCU wants to work with him because the movies that have his fingerprints did not do well.
Yeah. I mean, mind you, they all made their money back, but their profit margin was abysmal. Like they made their money back.
And they hurt the brand. Like again.
Yeah, that's the thing. It hurt, man. It was so bad. Yeah. Sorry,
Taylor, when they redo these movies and you tell me to watch the director's cut, right? When I have to go out of my way to see it and then it's like a good movie, but that's not what got released to theaters. And even Zack Snyder's movie didn't really go to theaters. So all of these things are getting fixed much later on. He's got to be responsible for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I think 100%. I mean, he failed the fans on such a level that it's really hard to ignore. I mean, you can say at the end of the day, oh, he did this, he did his best, but it's really hard when you inject yourself in the middle of a feud that's you had no place in. And he did that time and time again. And he proved that he just was not the right fit for the job. And they close out this article with kind of some other little bits that I thought were pretty significant. They talked about flat out, obviously with Dan Lin not taking the role as DC chief. Michael DeLuca is kind of the guy in charge now. And he's going to be the guy in charge until they find someone to formally take over. Unless they find someone to take his job and he just moves down and takes over DC.
Yeah, and I feel like Michael DeLuca is going to be the guy at the top of it, but the shadow person of all of this is The Rock. Like the person that's going and talking with these other actors being like, yo, come train with me. I'll get you in shape. I'll get you ready. My stunt team. I've got, that's all him doing. That's Dwayne The Rock Johnson going around these people and then them saying, yes, I want to work with this person. Black Adam versus the Shazam family should absolutely be the next Shazam movie. I don't know when what needs to happen for that to happen, but that needs to start getting worked on immediately.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. For people who he has kind of an interesting history among his filmography. I'm looking through all the stuff that he's been attached to. He's written stuff. He wrote episodes of Star Trek Voyager, which is kind of funny to me. But a lot of what I'm seeing in his filmography is no direct ties to the Snyderverse, but he got a lot of special thanks to members of the Snyderverse, like he was involved somehow.
Yeah.
He did produce, but a lot of his production credits are super nerdy stuff. His first movie production was Zathura, which was the spiritual sequel to Jumanji. Then he immediately segued into Ghost Rider 1 and 2, which were they were what they were.
They were there.
But they were there. They were movies. They exist.
They were there. They were there.
Say.
We watched it.
He's got a lot of nerdy stuff.
Lost in the wilderness before the MCU. But maybe that's what his love is. You know, maybe he should have been doing Constantine in those darker pictures. Lord,
is this real?
I don't know. You tell me.
Michael DeLuca. Michael DeLuca wrote the 1995 Judge Dredd movie.
That's a great movie.
Oh my God. No, okay. I will fight people to the death. Judge Dredd 95 is one of those movies that only sucked because of the time they made it. If you make that same script
it didn't even
right now,
suck back
fantastic.
Then.
It was so good. Rob Schneider was like the weirdest part of that whole movie.
Well, what was that, 94, 95? When was that? 95, right. Oh my God, are you kidding me? That was like, talk to his gun. You can pick what ammo you want to use. I'm talking to like sticks, you know, like when I as a kid, just pretend like, man, that movie was awesome. Yeah, watching it now, still awesome. I don't care. Transport back to the little kid, right? You know?
I would love a modernized version of this exact script. Like, don't even bother. Man. Just give me that whole thing, because I loved all of that.
Just all over again.
Such a weird movie, but I loved the whole like hillbilly cannibal thing. I loved that so much. It was so weird.
With was it Dennis Hopper, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, I love that movie.
Oh.
Is Dennis Hopper in that movie? I don't think he is. It's another bad guy.
I don't think he is. I think you're thinking of.
You're thinking of Waterworld.
You're thinking of Waterworld, and I just agreed with you. I'm like, yeah, no, because he was great in everything in the 90s. I was
thinking of Waterworld, and it's also in the desert with the with the cannibals. So
yeah. Oh, I love this.
On water. Perfect. So never mind.
Michael DeLuca was also the executive who helped Peter Jackson set up the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's all I needed. He also agreed.
I also enjoy Freddy vs. Jason. That was pretty fun. I
remember, Michael, you and I saw that in theaters. Yeah. I don't know why we saw it in theaters, because neither of us were into slasher films, but we saw it. I think it was probably a girl wanted to see it.
Because it was a superhero movie. It was two demonic superheroes that went at it. It's the closest thing we got to a good Mortal Kombat movie for a couple more decades.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through his entire filmography. His entire everything, his resume. I wouldn't be against him taking over. I'm not mad.
He just has to be open to ideas. Like, I think we want to find this person that like already knows all of this stuff. If he has a good base, let him learn the job and figure out what to do with these puzzle pieces, because that's the problem.
From what I'm seeing here is that he's obviously got some chops as he produced Lost in Space, the 1998 movie that I loved as a child. You remember my love for that movie.
Joey Tribbiani, right?
Yeah.
Oh my!
I loved that movie.
Yeah, it's so Will, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was Don West.
He was Don West.
That movie also runs into the problem of the technology just not being there. Like Fifth Element sells it, but that movie doesn't really sell it for some reason. But I also have a great soft spot for that movie.
He has a special thanks listed on Tropic Thunder. Somehow that movie happened because of him, and they gave him thanks for it.
Yo, is he tight with Tom Cruise? Do you think Tom Cruise finally comes over? Henry Cavill's back. Do you think Henry Cavill says, "Hey, come be a bad guy for a movie. I'll let you beat the shit out of me"?
No, I think so. In the article, they talked about how
the
person that's kind of being eyed to run the new Superman sequel. Like right now, they have Chuck Roven being the only guy attached to this thing. He's the producer that produced the DCEU as a whole.
Yeah.
He's the guy, and he's the only name attached to it. But it sounds like they're also trying to get our buddy Christopher McQuarrie back in the mix now that he's almost done with his Mission Impossible films. Because Chris McQuarrie, I for people who've followed me for the last few years, I have a funny history with Chris McQuarrie. What?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Did he ban you on social media?
Are you? No, that was like 3 years ago. No.
About 3 years ago, one of my first appearances on the Lightcast show.
3 years ago.
There was a rumor among Warner Brothers personnel that the reason he didn't take the job to do Superman and Green Lantern was because he was using it to leverage Paramount's contract for Mission Impossible. Turns out that whole rumor was probably nonsense for the people who passed on it to save face. But I shared the rumor, and Chris, being honestly the nicest guy I've ever met, reaches out to me in my DMs and says, "Hey, I know you probably said that all in good faith. It's not true, but let's talk about what really happened." And he just told me everything that happened. And I'm like, "I am so sorry." And I publicly apologized. He messaged me again saying, "Hey, you didn't have to do that, but thank you." And like, we just kept talking for months. And I'm like, and the whole time I'm just like, this can't be real. this is insane. And he was the nicest guy, who had every right to just chew me out, and he didn't. And
so maybe Hamada's just a bad dude. Like you know what I mean? Like maybe just at the end of the day, like he's a vindictive meanie face. Like I don't know what else. I mean, maybe not, but like what else would you
make good movies? I mean, he is what he is, right? At this point, there's too much of a track record to say anything else.
Yeah. But the big rumor back in the day was that when Chris McQuarrie was pitching the Superman project, he pitched it as a 2-part Superman Green Lantern project in order to bring Green Lantern into the fold, but also bring Superman into space.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea was that at the time they had this pitch for a Green Lantern buddy cop movie with a kind of like a reverse of Lethal Weapon, with the senior officer being Hal Jordan and the younger new officer being Jon Stewart. The big rumor was that along with the pitch, Tom Cruise was going to be Hal Jordan, which to this day, I don't for a second think that's a bad idea, because Tom Cruise,
best idea.
Tom Cruise is Maverick, and Maverick is Hal Jordan.
Oh, man.
Like, that would be fantastic. Let's bring that. Let's do that again. Bring that whole thing up. I'm ready. I want that. Give him the job. Give Tom Cruise a Green Lantern.
That would be so cool too, right? Because if you had Superman in space, then you have to have the rest of the Justice League watching out for everything else. So then you can start pairing up different superheroes in different movies and really making it something completely different that Marvel didn't do. Everyone had like solo movies. You just have pairs, like buddy cop movie here, adventure there.
Yeah. What was the I know someone in the comments is going to bring it up. What was the Brave and the Bold? I just as I was thinking about it, I remembered it. The Brave and the Bold comics, where it was essentially every issue was a buddy 2-parter thing. Yeah. I want that.
Yeah.
Give me a Brave and the Bold style run of films where this film it's the Flash and Cyborg. This film it's Aquaman and the Flash. This film it's Aquaman and Batman. This film it just mix them all up and just have fun, give everyone a foil, and make it weird. Let's do it.
I would have a buddy cop movie between Green Lantern and Superman, where they go to different worlds, and one, and Green Lantern's like all of a sudden like man on the spot and like looking for clues and scanning things, and Superman goes to the traumatized children and it's like, hey, what happened here? Like, give me a hug. Like, I would love for that dichotomy as well.
I would also just love to see it because Superman is from Kansas. The only other place he's really gone is Metropolis, and now he's going into space. It would just be like the biggest fish out of water thing. Like, here I am, I'm Superman with his like conservative farm boy values, and everyone's like, "What are you doing, dude?
Who are you?"
That's not how it works on this planet. He's like, "I'm sorry."
Right.
Like,
I apologize.
The scene I see in my head is they go to a bar to meet some gangsters and they have to all drink. And Superman's like, I don't drink. And Green Lantern's like, if you don't drink, you will insult them. We have to drink. And then we cut to like Superman being drunk and like just like stumbling around. I mean, we know that sideways.
We know that Superman does drink. In Man of Steel, he had a beer in one scene, but he doesn't get drunk on Earth. So that same scene where he's like, oh, drinking doesn't bother me, hammered.
Yeah. What did I drink?
Superman versus Flash, how many beers would it take to get either of them drunk? Who gets drunk first?
We're just gonna
instead
pitch
of
drinking
the
games
instead of
for
the normal
superheroes.
race that everyone always wants to know who's faster. I want to see who can handle their alcohol better from those two guys.
The Flash just everything the Flash puts in his body
just metabolized
just instantly, right? He just eats pizzas all the time.
Yeah, he has
He's
to.
a snack hole, right? He's a snack hole.
Snack hole. That's what he said. Yeah. But what we know finally from the closing bit, greenlit Joker 2 was greenlit by DeLuca. DeLuca gave us Joker 2. He also helped make decisions and change some key parts of Aquaman 2, which I'm 100% believing that he was the one who put Ben back in that movie.
Right. He was the person that made all the phone calls and said, hey, we're really sorry.
He's also probably the guy. Now, but, he's probably the guy that's 100% responsible for the whole third act change of the Flash, because it even talks about how he made decisions creatively once he came to power for the Flash, and has been meeting with other filmmakers. Basically, they kind of say it right here. As for Johnson, last week he publicly expressed interest in helping guide the search for the DC boss. He doesn't want the job because he knows that would mean he can't make movies anymore, but he wants to help find the guy. And if the guy is DeLuca, awesome. But they did talk about in here that the script for The Flash 2 is already done. It's actually not even being written by the first person who wrote the script, because they're moving away from that person. They're actually getting the script from David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, which was the guy who wrote the first Aquaman movie. Not even the second one. So I feel like DeLuca is, the things that he's doing, the people that he's commissioning are all people from before Hamada. He's bringing all that. He's like bringing all those talents back into the front, which is pretty cool. They even talk about this. Ezra Miller, as controversial as everything has been with Ezra, he met with Warner Brothers in August. He's done recent reshoots for the film as recently as a couple weeks ago, and he recently pled not guilty to the arrest for the felony burglary charge. And everyone keeps focusing on the fact that, if he gets convicted, he's going to go to jail for a maximum of 26 years. But the reality is that even Hollywood doesn't do that. Like that never happens to anybody in Hollywood.
A first-time offender who has millions of dollars behind him, he's not going to jail for 26 years.
He's not even going to go to jail for 90 days.
Getting way more press than other.
He's not going to go to. Ezra's not going to go to jail. They're going to find some way. I mean, obviously, Ezra pled not guilty, which means that the lawyer that he hired clearly knows what they're doing and has a way to get out of it. And the studio knows everything that's going on with Ezra. They would not have hired him back to do all of the extra pickup work if they thought Ezra was going to be canned.
They wouldn't be talking about The Flash 2 if they weren't behind Ezra Miller.
Right.
Right. I mean, unless in the end of this movie, the Flash runs so fast, he turns into another person and we're like, what happened? And that's the end of the movie. But besides that, he will be the through piece for these next films.
Right. And kind of what Ryan Unicomb brought up right now, obviously, we've said it before. Black Adam has to succeed. The Flash has to succeed. And Aquaman has to succeed. And the studio currently, Warner Brothers Discovery, is doing everything that they can to make these films not a product of the last studio. And that's essentially, and I wanted to bring this point up, essentially what they are doing, they're trying to do the good version of what the studio did to Zack Snyder back in 2016. Where the studio took Zack Snyder's films, dismantled them, and ruined them to try to make them what audiences wanted. The studio now is going in and trying to recut these films to be what the fans wanted the whole time. Not what the studio wants, but what the fans actually want. It's going to be interesting to see. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, the last studio was what? Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84. That's enough.
Honestly, I don't even know what.
I mean, it's
I think I have so many too I can think of.
it's the TV. I mean, it's the TV stuff. I mean, there's Suicide Squad with James Gunn, but there's the other Suicide Squad movie in there.
That's right.
I'm sure there's a Flash. There's not the Flash. I'm sorry. There's a slew of CW projects that were probably talked about in all of these different universes and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And then also all of the debacle with, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Taylor. Is this all the debacle with like the Justice League reshoots with what's his name from Buffy?
Joss Whedon.
Yeah. Is that all attached to this as well?
That was attached to, so that's kind of part of it in a way. Because the Joss Whedon stuff was commissioned by Toby Emmerich and was done by Jeff Johns when Toby put Jeff in charge. And then when Jeff lost his power at the studio, they brought in Walter Hamada, and Walter Hamada repeatedly protected Emmerich and Joss and Jeff Johns and all of them. Like it's such a weird situation. He could have taken the easy way out and just said, yeah, these guys sucked at what they did. I'm trying to do things better. But he chose to defend all of them and protect all of them. So he's kind of complicit in their nonsense too.
Do you think he was responsible, even though he wasn't in that position? Do you think he was consulted and that's maybe what got him the job, which is why he then had to defend it?
I hope not. But it's at this point, it could be possible.
It's so weird that that's the thing that's a sword that he fell on at all. It would have been very easy to be like, they all messed up. We're doing it different. Everything's new. It's going to be different. But like, that was clearly not what we wanted. And in fact, I mean, Zack Snyder's Justice League put that movie to shame. I mean, it's almost unwatchable.
It absolutely is unwatchable.
We tried one time, I think on Lightcast, we tried to do a live stream watch Justice League. And maybe about 10 minutes into it, I just started tuning out. I was playing on my phone the rest of the stream. I just couldn't do it. It was so bad.
It was pretty bad.
So bad.
That was a long, like 2 hours, man.
That was a very long 2 hours. I got like really far in one of my games though. I think I had my Switch for part of it. But no, it's a hell of a thing. But it sounds like DeLuca is, even though he's running Warner Brothers Pictures, he's positioned himself to be running DC. And I wouldn't even begin to doubt if Zaslav thinks that DeLuca is doing a good job, that he'll offer him the job just to take over that whole studio. Say, hey, I know I gave you Warner Brothers, but why don't you take over all of DC, make this thing happen? And
well, if these superhero movies are a third of the product coming out of there needs to be an eye on it. And the ship has been rudderless for such a long time that somebody being able to keep all of these things moving. And also, let's get to it. Let's get the ball rolling on all of these fun movies that we keep talking about, and team up movies and like amazing, like great.
Yeah.
Start making them, because that is going to bring your audience back.
So DeLuca and Abdi are said to want more things. Sorry. DeLuca and Abdi are said to want more things in development and more things on the runway ready to go, in opposite ethos from what Hamada was doing, who took a more targeted approach and only greenlit things very slowly, essentially. So DeLuca and Abdi are trying to find as much as they can to make DC as profitable as possible, and they're all saying the right stuff. I mean, earlier this week at the premiere, what did Dwayne Johnson say? He said flat out that he doesn't want to take a page from Marvel. He doesn't want to copy Marvel. The exact quote, and I shared it, was, do I think we're going to take any kind of bite out of Marvel? The answer is unequivocally no. We do not want to be Marvel. We want to be DC. I don't want to bite that apple. I want to grab a new apple and want to create from there. That is what they need to do.
Wasn't that like the whole point of like Man of Steel? Yeah, like Man of Steel was different, right? Batman versus Superman, regardless how you think about it, you probably still talk about it. It's different. You know, it was something like powerful, like of gods, like mythology, and that kind of stuff is what I love. I love mythology, first of all, but it just made it feel bigger than normal, and I loved it, man.
And if The Rock wanted to make Marvel movies, he would just go to Disney. They would welcome him with open arms, and they would give him a list of 30 people that they want to bring in. They go, you can be any of these people. Who do you want to be? You want to be the next Thanos? Who do you want to be? They would have given him anybody, and these are the movies he wants to make.
Yeah, great.
And
point.
yes, people are bringing this up. And also a Rock quote, this movie is phase 1. Yes, it is. Because this is a new breath of life into DC. So yes, it is essentially a phase 1 because they're trying to bring back life to DC. The studio would not run in the trades that the next Superman movie is the sequel to Man of Steel if they were rebooting Superman. They wouldn't call it Man of Steel 2 if they were rebooting Superman. I think people need to realize that, yes, The Rock called this phase 1. That means that everything before it was phase 0.
And we don't even have enough time now. I mean, we didn't even get into like, what do you want to see in a Man of Steel 2? Like, that's a whole, I mean, I want to hear everyone because there was very clearly things that were set up, but to be honest, they can do anything they want. And I think it's going to be somewhere between what they were going to do and what they want to do. But I'm excited for the possibilities, especially if all these people are excited about it as well.
Yeah.
I think that Man of Steel 2, it's going to probably go exactly what Henry Cavill wanted to do. And Henry talked about this in an interview fairly recently. I just retweeted it on Twitter while we were doing the show. The whole thing essentially is he knows where his Superman takes place in the timeline. He understands that Superman in Man of Steel was day 1 Superman. He understands that. He knows that he had to learn all these things. He had to become this character. And then he knows that the world didn't accept him. Everything went dark. Now he knows he's back. And he even said before Superman falls to the anti-life, before he goes to dark Superman, before he becomes a weapon for evil, he wants to show Superman as the hero for man.
And I think right there is why, talking about the clip, they use the John Williams music because this is Superman. And they want your dad to go see. Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay. Good question. Thanks, Taylor. Good, Taylor.
Watch the movie later this week. I've talked to about 5 or so people that saw the movie already, and they said that they didn't hear the music. They said maybe it's the theme is somewhere hidden in the music.
Oh, interesting.
It didn't sound like it. They said that the scene that used Superman in it did not feel like John Williams' theme 100%. They said it felt like it was something new and may have had some, but they didn't notice it. They also said that the premiere was so freaking loud that no one heard any music. So, but regardless, I think at this point we do need to wrap it up. What we know now is that, bottom line, Dwayne Johnson and Michael DeLuca brought the DCEU back. They got Henry back, they got Ben back, and they got it away from Hamada because Hamada was ready to reboot everything. And he was trying to reboot everything. So whether or not we like the final product, whether or not we like how Black Adam turns out or how Aquaman turns out or any of that stuff, whether we like any of it, the bottom line is that the studio was trying to wipe all of this away, and those two guys prevented that from happening. So
all good news. All good news.
All good news. TJ, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to find out updates on your car accidents, where can they follow you online? How can they find out what's going on with this insurance process?
Oh man, I'll keep you guys posted on that. That'll be fun. That's not going to be fun.
It's not going to be fun. No, I remember when I got hit by that old lady in the Jeep that destroyed my Jeep. It's not fun. It takes forever.
I remember. Yeah. Not fun.
And it's
but
not
thanks for letting me crash the party.
Anytime. This is a party we absolutely want you to crash more. So sorry about all the troubles. You listen. You will. I'm glad you have survived. But yes, I totally feel you. It's a bunch of stress.
But let me put it this way. They're trying to bring back the Man of Steel was always meant to be something very different than Marvel. What movies did we get the same year from Marvel? Fox gave us the Wolverine. And Marvel gave us Iron Man 3 and Thor, the second Thor movie, Dark World.
Probably the worst year of Marvel movies.
They've never wanted to be Marvel. The previous management wanted DC to be Marvel, And now Dwayne is trying to push it a different way. So I'm good with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm good with that. But,
Awesome.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to support us and help keep us afloat, go ahead and head over to the Patreon and support any way you can, or just like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Get this channel some love, because that's, if you don't want to support financially, obviously just give us some love that way. Thank you everyone who does currently support us. I do need to update that list because we've got a couple more people that joined up, and thank you all for being there for us. Those of you at home, thank you. Scan that code, check everything else that we do on our platforms, and we will see you all next week.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you, TJ. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out.